Let's pray. Father God, thank you for the time, for the opportunities to know your heart. And you so explicitly about your heart to everybody. And you also lay all these passions into our hearts because you want us to do alike. And please help us to understand, especially in such a diverse world with so many people in great diversity. Give us the strength, give us the wisdom and courage to be obedient students to you. I pray all this in the name of Jesus. Amen. Last week, Pastor Kwan spent some time for us to go through a very familiar story. We stopped at the Good Samaritans. This is the pictures we ended at last week. I guess it could be a very thorough explanations, and I guess it drive me to this kinds of view for the whole week, especially when I think about it deep down. I just found it a lot of insufficiency in this learning, especially I guess last week when Pastor Kwan he mentioned sometimes it's when we just learn something but we never do it, we just don't know how difficult that will be. And I guess you will feel the same way this week because it's almost along the same theme. Originally, I haven't chose this theme originally because, as I've said before, I kind of studying what the Apostle Peter is doing, but just look at what we have reading this morning, and it just brings us to these themes again. And I guess this could be another thing. Originally, I haven't put this as a disciple perspective because I guess it's just out of my knowledge, to be very honest. But I guess this is something very important. As Derek has read this morning, he's talked about this woman. She's a Canadian, not Canadian, Canaanite, always Canadian. She's a Canadian, maybe, I don't know. But her daughter is sick, and then she's a very deep need in help, and she asked Jesus for helping. And the passage say that she just come back to the place called Tyre and Sidon, and then just met with this woman. And you may try to understand why we read this passage, because every single week when we read a passage, there's a theme. And this passage is talk about to be inclusive. I don't know, you can try to do this, but that is exactly what I'm trying to do today. Sometimes we just try to be exclusive. I have my own way. I am very special, and then you are some other people. You can see some of this kinds of shadow from this passage, because when this very needy woman come to Jesus, and then because maybe her daughter is severely oppressed by the demons, it could be something like unholy. Because of her unholiness, the disciples just want to drive her away. But it's so wonderful that Jesus answered, I was sent only to the lost sheep of our house of Israel. And I guess this is exactly, it's keep on repeating the same theme. It's so easy to remember and understand, but it's just so that when I think about it and thought about it, I could be one of them. I always, in these categories, to try to be exclusive instead of inclusive, because I just want to, I could be the group of people to be, could be very superior. Even some people just so desperate, and I've just tried to keep that person away and just stay away from me. But Jesus said that I'm just coming for this group of people. And I'm just so touched by this story, because before this story, they are talking about a teaching that there are some people challenge Jesus, say that, but why your disciple will not wash their hand before they go to eat? So it's more like a ritual. Back then, when they need to do something, it's not just for the hygienic reason. It's more like a ritual, like a things that they need to do. But Jesus said that no, just don't need. Now I would like to want you to understand why the Old Testament say this. because they have some like tradition things, and back then they are just exile, and then they are in the wilderness. They have so many things, so back then they have so many things. But Jesus tried to define one thing about holiness. It's not something exclusively for a group of people who can wash their hands. Jesus said, the things that go inside will not make us dirty, but what will? The things we really say it out loud or do it out will really make people dirty. To be like, it is so hard for us to understand. You may say, Pastor Daniel, are you talking about go to washroom? No, this is not what I'm trying to say. It's talk about our deeds and behavior, sometimes, or the things that we try to say. But what is the origins of this dirtiness? Is from inside. When we have sin, when we have all the things that inside, we will have the things coming out in that kinds of form. And as a whole, Jesus tried to say that no matter what, you cannot be exclusive. Who could be that kinds of holy? No, nobody. Just God can do it. Nobody could be holy. And if you try to be exclusive because of your own behavior, you cannot do it. You cannot do it. So Jesus tried to make a very big picture. Now on, it's just so that if you know your own sin and you've been saved by the Lord, and then you could get that holiness. I guess that's the whole picture Jesus wanted to draw before this picture. And it is a very good introduction, though, because no matter this woman, where this woman is coming from, Jesus tells us that this is the group of people I love. And no matter what. And actually, this woman feel inclusive, too. It's very, very funny. Look at her conversation. But she came, verse 25. But she came and knelt before him, saying, Lord, help me. And he answered, it is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. So what is the inclusive and exclusive? That's like a big contrast of children and dogs. So it could be like a metaphor. It's like you try to symbolize something. Children means us, and the dog just means outsiders. It's like back then. It's like the foreigners. It's not included in the Israelite tribes. But what is her reply? She said, "Yes, Lord. Even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master table." So it's almost like, yes, I could be, back then I could be like a group of people being excluded, but still I would love to be included. Even the little crumb from the table, drop it, I would like to have it. Well, that is very important, because used to be this group of people that they're just so outside. But this woman just tried to demonstrate to us what is the meaning of faith. It's like, if I could come to you, come to the Lord and be accepted, and I could be one in that family, and I'm no longer exclusive. So there's a lot of symbols in this passage. I already talked about the heart. And Jesus praised this woman and said, "Oh woman, great is your faith, be it done for you as you desire." And Jesus praised her because she did so well. And that is so in line with what Jesus tried to do. No matter back then you were put into the category of exclusion. The people exclude you, but now because of your faith, you can come. And that's the good news. And that is exactly the good things happen. And Jesus wants us to do likewise. I guess this is exactly the theme of today. In this story, will us be one of the disciples just try to drive the people away because of their needs, because of their appearance, because of their backgrounds, or because of their nationalities? Well, when I read this passage, I'm so indifferent, because that's exactly the days when the Barcelona incident happens. And then, when I look at the news, and I still remember at the times when I'm Cynthia walk on that same street. I guess everybody go to Barcelona will go to that same street. And when you look at the trees, even I almost can see the Starbucks there, because we went into a Starbucks have the worst the iced tea that we have offered, because actually they just don't know how to make the traditional Starbucks iced tea. But so actually we have a great impressions in my mind when we were in that street. But now on there's another story talking about terrorism. We walk in this street when we are shopping, because there's a whole bunch of things laying on the floor. And then I still remember when I go to try to buy a soccer team T-shirt back then. I'm still negotiating, but finally we didn't get it because it's too expensive. But I still remember that place, but now it's talking about a group of people who have a different belief and they have a different goal in their life, and they just try to attack innocent people. And then there's a lot of family, especially. I heard about one of the fathers died because they just got hit, and then they just spent a week there for vacations, and just like most of us. And I just feel so scared, and then I find out how can I be inclusive in such an incident when, say, Muslim people. Of course, Muslim people can stand with a lot of different faith, because still like a big diversity within the Muslim world. There's a group of people, they just aim at attacking, and then they just come. And I pray, Father, if these groups of people, will I still be the person who could love them? I don't know. I'm still praying, because I'm in great shock when I'm thinking, I don't know how many of you like me, when I'm thinking about go to Europe in the following days, we will have a second thought about whether I would like to go to Europe, because it seems like, I don't know, will the next one will be Paris, or will be Barcelona, or will be and I don't know. Seems like most of the places I fall off, they even Rome, Italy, they have different kinds of things. But that's no safe place now. But how can we do this? Because Jesus said this. And then he also do this because the Isaiah 56 talks about all this in a lengthy way at the back of this passage. It's so difficult because I don't know how many of you has been very familiar with the whole book of Isaiah, because there's 66 chapters, and then in the first few chapters they just try to introduce the salvations of Jesus, and there's a person called Jesus coming, and then he will try to actualize. He is the Prince of Peace, and then he's the person who come and make all these kinds of things I know. And finally, all this message has been done on 54, and talk about, okay, all the Israelites, you guys can come. You should seek God when you can still seek Him, and then talk about. So it's almost talk about salvation, and then you can come back to response to us, and it's almost like a very good ending. If the whole book of Isaiah is talk about salvations, is talk about you return to God. Actually, Isaiah say enough, and then that should be a very good finale at chapter 54 and 55. But that is so funny that Isaiah 56 start a very big chapters here and make it so important, and that's exactly why we need to talk about it now. It's very simple. They just talk about God's love will not end at Israel, it will extend it to foreigners. And this is what the God said: maintain justice and do what is right, for my salvation is close at hand, and my righteousness will soon be revealed. Blessed is the one who does this, the person who holds it fast, who keeps the Sabbath without desecrating it, and keep their hands from doing any evil. Let no foreigners who is bound to the Lord said, the Lord will surely exclude me from his people. Let no eunuch complain, I am only a dry tree. It's almost like talking about there is a justice coming out. Of course, the Israel people will understand that will come soon, because as I said, for the previous 54 chapters, they talk a lot about this. And then when they can see Jesus, they almost can see that by the coming of Jesus Christ, that's the actualization. That's the hope. And then when you receive him, reach him, you will got this. But that is a new topic to talk about here. The right part said, there's no foreigners who will bounce to the Lord said, if this could, the Lord will surely exclude me from this people, and eunuch complain I am only a dry tree. He's almost saying that when you got the salvations, don't stop at yourself. And don't let the rest of the world feel that I am being excluded. The scripture says so explicit. The Lord will surely exclude me from the people. The Lord warned us that there will be no foreigners will bound to this statement. And that is being said. For some of our disciples, we always think that, like, okay, I have a good life, I did it, I got it. But Jesus wants us to make a continuation and say that that group of people being excluded will be blessed someday. Can you imagine that? So no wonder when by the time Jesus comes, he wants us to do the likewise. And that's the remaining part of the scripture. For this is what the Lord said to the eunuch who keep my Sabbath, who choose what pleases me and hold fast to my confidence, to them I will give even my temple, in its wall a memorable and a name better than the sons and daughters. I will give them an everlasting name that will endure forever. This is very funny. It's always like talk about, so there's a group of people just like the women where we talk about this passage. When the people just don't like her, but Jesus wants us to know that they will give her the big stuff. So for this group of people who can keep his Sabbath and try to please him and hold fast to God's covenant, and they will not be excluded. And to them, they will give what he will give it to the Son. And that's exactly, to them I will give him with me my temple and the wall of memory and a name better than sons and daughters. It's almost like talking about they are not downgraded. No, they won't. They will do anything. And actually, when we flip the coins a little bit, you will always think that, wow, if I were the son and the daughter, used to be I would claim all this because of the relationship. But Jesus tried to say that no, in God's mind, that thing will be extended. It's almost like your father told you that, okay, this house, $1 million. I guess we have a lot of $1 million house, right? And then from now on, you are the only son. I'm not going to give this house to you because we have a neighbor. We have a close relationship. I love him. So if I die someday, you two will split the house. Can we stand with that? Can we stand with what's supposed to be yours will be split, and you will share with another person? And that split is not because of the relationship. That split is because God just wants to love them. Can you stand with that? I don't know whether that is a good example, but I feel that way. I really feel that way. Like whenever we have that relationship with God already, and then we can inherit all the great things from God, and always we think that, okay, this is legitimate because of what? Because of the relationship. No matter what, back then I'm the Israel, or now we are the group of people who can experience the grace of God. And I always think myself to be more superior, and then the people outside the wall or anybody, they're excluded. But now, no. God said to them, I will give within the temple my temple. Do you know how much a temple means to people back then? It's so important. Can you imagine if one time the North Korea people press one button and then they shoot down the gold, was the temple at the middle of Jerusalem? What will happen? I guess that will be the end of the world. It's so important. Temple is almost their life. It's almost like our cell phone now. I cannot think about like an example for temple for us. I don't think church represents your temple. I guess your cell phone or your, I don't know, anything. Yeah, cell phone is closest. Or your car. Yeah, your car may be your temple. Yeah, important things. So, but like they would give them within your temple and the wall. Do you know like like the wall of Jerusalem is so important that back then it's like almost the protections, everything. If they lost the wall, just like the Old Testament people, if they have the wall breaking down and they need to rebuild it. And they were given within my temple and the wall a memorial and a name, an identity. And those are things not entered here. Those are the things they say is more important than and better than the sons and daughters. I will give it to them. When I read to this place, I start to think that this is the heart of our God. He wants to be inclusive. He wants us to extend these things really wide. Don't think that you are privileged. You are blessed with all you are having, but don't stop there, and then you need to love it. Can you imagine how do I feel when I think about the Samaritan story? The Good Samaritan is the person who can be so inclusive. And I guess it's so hard that if I really would like to walk, because that day I still remember I walked outside my neighborhood and I want to talk to some of the neighbor, and I always think about their bad. I don't know why. I start to think about some of the, because we're living together, we have incidents to think about their bad, but like, I don't know. Forgive me, I still learning, but it's just so that it is some things that God wants us to do. And what? And foreigners who bind themselves to the Lord, to minister to Him, to love the name of the Lord, and to be His servant, all who keep the Sabbath without desecrating it. Oh, okay, I guess it repeats the same thing. Okay, let's start with, oh, no, okay, keep on doing. Who hold fast to my covenant. This I will bring to my holy mountains and give them joy in my house of prayer. Their burnt offering and sacrifice will be accepted on my altars, for my house will be called the house of prayer for all nations. That's way more. That's way more. That is the things God wants us to do, that instead of exclude people. What do you think about a WTCC church look like? If we like something like this, like we have a pretty sanctuary, and then we have like a air conditionings, like I don't know, like we have so many outsiders, like so how can we like could be like a church to be inclusive? To the first challenge I think about next door, like the Muslim school over there. Yeah, sometimes like I don't know, you may, a lot of you may know, like some of the people just park, their parents just park all the car here on a weekday because they would like to pick up their children in the middle of the day. And then like, but we just don't have that very positive conversation interactions back then. And I don't know how we can build that gap, because I don't know. But it just brings me to this story to think about. This is a story when it's recorded in Mark 11, 15, 19. It's a very, when we talk about this story, we were very familiar with this story because Jesus cleansed the temple. And back then, when we talk about this story, we always talk about, yes, because the people doing business in the courtyard of the temple, because back then some people, if they would like to make a burnt offering, they usually will not bring the animals to the temple. So usually there will be some business people, they will prepare some pigeons, or they will prepare some oxen or some animals for them to make as a burnt offering. Because back then, if they would like to carry all these animals straight to the temple, this animal will die, because we don't have Honda Civic back then. We don't have like trucks. We don't have anything. They need to carry these animals all the way several kilometers. But back then, they will bring their monies into the temple and exchange it to animals or some of the things they need. And Jesus, well, our first impression is talk about the people is being unfair when they're doing business. But one of the information we're always missing when we think along about these lines of justice and being inclusive is why Jesus is so angry. What is the point? Why Jesus is so angry? it just related to one of the things what this story happening. Why Jesus, when he see all these kinds of business people doing business, and then he just sweep them away with this little stripe, and then why he's so angry? One of the things I always miss is about this floor plan. Do you know where this story is happening? When we look at, we need to understand the temple. Because in the center part is the major portions of the temple, and then that's for worship. But it's not like us. We can go to the sanctuary, no matter what, you can go to everywhere. But back then, if you, a Jewish people, you can go inside the wall. It's the center square. And then you can obviously see there's a blue arrow there. There is a place called Courts of the Gentiles. What does it mean? Is if you're like a Gentile, if you're not like an Israel people, back then you need to stay there. You cannot go further than that wall, because the inner part within that wall is just for the Israel people. Or within that part, there's a woman court. So means that within the most inner part is for men, the outside is for women. So I guess if you go to Jerusalem now, you still have these things, like the woman is at this side, and then the man is at this side. So there's a lot of divisions, right? But still, they still within that square of worship. They can go inside and worship without no problem if they are not a Gentile. But the Gentile people can just stay outside this wall. You see, like there's a whole court. And why? Go back to the story. Why? Why Jesus being so mad back then about this courtyard? Is because all this business happen in the courtyard of Gentile. Means that if there's a whole bunch of tradings, a lot of peoples there. Originally, there's supposed to be a place for the Gentiles to come to worship. They have the chance to come in. That's the closest part. For the Gentile people, they cannot go even further. They need to stay there. But what if there is a whole bunch of business people, they do business there, they're creating noise, emergence, all the sounds of the animals, emergence, the sounds of the coins, emergence, the sounds of the negotiations there. And then what happened to the Gentiles' worship? That's no place for the Gentile worship. And that's exactly why Jesus, on another level, is so angry about this kinds of situation. Because what? Originally, the Gentile people supposed to be inclusive within, although they have some rules. But back then, they still have a chance to come into the closest parts to worship. But because of these kinds of people, they're using a wrong place for business. They try to occupy some place which is not, they're not supposed to be there to do it. And they just do why? Because it's the most convenience. Originally, they're supposed to be outside the court of Gentiles. But now, because they just try to squeeze in to that place and make that place become not available. And I guess that's why Jesus is so angry. Of course, he's talking about this is the place for praying, for the people to seek God. But now there's another level of meanings there. It's talk about why you guys always try to drive the Gentiles away. Why don't you just give yourself a chance to allow these people to come in? Even along the rules, will you allow them to stay at the court of Gentiles? Why? Why you always think that? Because you just try to be exclusive. And brothers and sisters, we have this thought. We always draw that lines. We always we don't have that heart. We always think that we being loved, and then some people are not that lovely, and then they're not supposed to be here. But I guess that's exactly why Jesus tried to demonstrate all these kinds of things and try to illiterate a bit on what the passage of Isaiah is trying to talk about. Jesus say the Lord would like to let these people to come and give things way better, way better than what God is given to the son and daughters. Brothers and sisters, what do you think? I have read a passage that comes from Mother Teresa, and I guess what Mother Teresa is so famous about is like her ministry in Calcutta, and then she has spent her whole life to serve the people who are so unfortunate, and then of course it could not be a very good example, because I guess like everybody of us will be agree in going to missions and going to poor things, but I guess her things is by her saying is she just found that she's in debt to the people, because one of the sentences she said that I haven't put on the screen. She said, "We will be judged by I was hungry and you gave me to eat. I was naked, you clothed me. I was homeless and you took me in." Remember where this passage coming from? It's come from Matthew 25. It's talking about the parable of the goat and the sheep, the parable. And then like back then, it's almost talking about like one day we will be judged by how much we become a person of inclusive. And that's exactly why Mother Teresa is doing. And she keeps on saying, hungry not only bread but for love, naked not for clothing but for human dignity and respect, homeless not only for want or break but homeless because of rejections. Applications. Simply think about it. Who are we? Do we share these disciple perspectives? I guess the disciple is supposed to to know where God is want us to do and want the life. Think about around us, our coworkers or our neighbors. How can we be inclusive? Sometimes I guess it's harder for the Chinese kinds of background too, because like last night I asked King Cynthia the same questions. Will we like other tribes around us? I don't want to name them, but will we love the tribes around our neighborhoods? She said, I don't hate them. That's her answer. I don't hate them. Yeah. I guess it's kind of skillful to answer my question. But Jesus wants us to love them and include them. Think about Muslim evangelism. They're supposed to be part of it too. Although I don't know, I'm still learning how to do it. Still thinking about different tribes of people. Like think about like one of the tribes that when you think about them, you will kind of feeling uneasy. How are we going to extend these hands? How are we going to love these people like Jesus loved this wonderful woman and Sidon? And how we're going to respond to it. Let's pray together. Father God, we knew that we are very insufficient. When we were foreigners, when we have our own agendas and preferences. Forgive us, like we have a lot of prejudice. We have a lot of so-called self-defense mechanisms. But Father God, we just inspire us to be like you. And you want us to be inclusive because you want to include all these people into your kingdom. And those are the people you love and you want to give them the best. And inspire us to change our minds and to love them and try to love them in the same ways that like you love us, and give us the strength that we need. And pray all this in the name of Jesus. Amen.